Hi, welcome to the Auto Lab. In the book on the table is a set of instructions how to run this lab, and I'm going to take you through step by step how to run this lab so you have some familiarity with it and things to watch for. First thing you're going to do when you get here, log into the computer on your regular engineering account. When the desktop comes up, there will only be one VI file. Double click and open it. The VI is built for you. Everything you need is all set. The only thing you need to do is bring your own thumb drive, put it in the computer, and one of the tips I always point out is Control-T splits the screen. Go to your block diagram, all the way on the right, right where it says double click to change directory and file names, you have to tell LabVIEW to write to your thumb drive or it won't run. So you click the folder to point the path to wherever you put your thumb drive. Just find your thumb drive. In this case it's called Cruiser. Call it Auto Lab. So now LabVIEW knows the path to write your data. Enlarge the screen. This is the only screen you need. Everything is on here. There's only two channels coming in. Cylinder pressure and the position of the crank. And they will be displayed crank position on the bottom, x-axis, pressure on the y-axis. Now LabVIEW, every time we close it, it does not remember preferences. Two things you have to change. Number one, make sure in the upper right, volts to PSI factor, T in 150. For some reason LabVIEW won't save that. That's the multiplication factor for the transducer to get the right pressures. In the upper left, number of samples and scan rate. I know Professor Slung talked about that. That's going to be your decision, what scan rate and number of samples. Think about how many RPMs you're running at, how quick you need to acquire data, and you can start with the defaults, but you may need to change that. Other than that, LabVIEW is pretty much set to go. Now we're going to go through the basic startup procedure of the engine with no load, just like running your car in neutral or in park. Okay, to start this engine, let's make sure we have all the settings correct to start, working left to right. The amplifier for the pressure transducer has to be on. Make sure the arrow is in the green area. Power supply for the rotary encoder has to be on, about 4.5 or 5 volts, whatever it says is fine. Switches on the control panel, there's a card to show you which position. We can go through those in a minute, but again, just working this way. 2 needle valves for our fuel choices. We can do alcohol or methanol. M for methanol, A for alcohol. Ignition switch right now is off. We'll leave it off for now. Control box, battery charger is off. Exhaust fan is on. Power for the engine is on. Alright, to start the engine we're going to choose a fuel, alcohol or methanol. In this case I'm going to choose methanol. The needle valve is marked with a red line. Just open it 2.5 or 3 full turns. Turn your ignition switch on. Your starter switch is right here. We're going to start this switch, and as we start we're going to choke by putting our thumb over to get some draw, and we're going to slowly reduce the load adjustment. It's kind of two things at once, but just watch this. Start, choke it a little bit, right now. Can you hear it firing? Now you're ready to apply a load and take some data under a load. Alright, so the fuel delivery, we have a butterfly valve which closed or open. Make sure it's in line, that's fully open. We're going to go with methanol, so we're going to open this 3 turns. There's a red line about 9 o'clock, so if we go 1, 2, 3 turns, that will allow fuel down the intake manifold into the cylinder. Alright, so our fuel is ready to come in. We turn our ignition on. We go to our start switch, and as we turn on our start switch, we're going to also unload this a little bit. We're going to choke it. So you hear it fire. You hear it fire. Generator. When you go to start your VI, make sure, go to run, let's just run it, and make sure you adjust your cylinder pressure to 0. It's just taking care of the ambient pressure changes day by day. You can be off 1 or 2, it's really not going to affect it that much. Over here, this running button, while the engine's running it'll stay green. There is a time limit. If you run more than I think 6 or 7 minutes, those will flash red and tell you to shut down. We will get into cooling air on the load side of this. You also have the encoder position on the left and the actual pressure, live pressure when it's running on the right. So those are your 2 channels, encoder position and pressure. Alright, what I've done here, I've just captured pretty much 1 complete cycle, 4 strokes of this engine, and I just want to explain a little bit what's going on here on our graph. On the very left here, our starting position, at top dead center, we should be right around 0 pressure, because the intake valve is going to open, the piston is going to go down to the right, so we're pretty much still at 0 because the intake valve is open. At some point near the bottom of the stroke, the intake valve closes near the bottom, but still goes down a little bit, dropping the pressure even more. Here we're still under a negative pressure until we start coming back up. Now with both valves closed, we're increasing the pressure until we get to top dead center. The piston comes back down, the pressure is lowering again, and around here the exhaust valve opens, again going back to atmospheric pressure, back to the start, and over again. Now the choices you make are in the lab handout, whether you're going to change fuels, mixtures, loads, the parameters of the lab are in there. That's the basic operation. The TA will be here to help you. Hopefully this was a good familiarization and you'll be comfortable when you get in here running this.